Welcome to Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Mike McCarthy is the producer behind the boards as we bring you our 2018 Colonial Athletic Association season preview. We'll start this video by taking a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense. Last season, we saw 4 teams make the NCAA tournament from the CAA and 2 teams that had legitimate gripes about being snubbed in Delaware and Richmond. You also had teams that finished with respectable records that were dealing with massive injuries in Towson and Villanova. And you had teams in Maine and Albany that were on the cusp of playoff berths until later down the stretch. I said all that to say this: the CAA is one of the highly competitive conferences in the FCS, and if last year's 4 teams made the playoffs, if all things being considered, this conference could make a strong case for 6 teams getting in this season. Of course, conferences like the Missouri Valley, the SoCon, Big Sky, or even Southland could have something to say about that, but it just shows you why the Colonial is considered one of the best pound-for-pound conferences in the FCS. Last year, the Rhode Island Rams pushed Central Michigan into overtime in the opener. They knocked off perennial Ivy League titan Harvard and lost by 1 point to the Elon Phoenix. The Rams were also in most of their games as well. Head coach Jim Fleming did a great job coaching last year and got the Rams to believe they can win. Last year was a taste, and the returning players now have evidence of what success looks and feels like, so we'll see if they can build on the progress they made last season. The William & Mary Tribe were winless in conference play for the first time ever in legendary head coach Jimmy Laycock's 39-year tenure. We all know that last year was an anomaly, as the Tribe will be much better within the conference this season. Now, last year the Tribe lost 3 one-possession games in the CAA, and the hope is that with a much more experienced team, especially defensively, that should help them be in much better position to close out those games in 2018. One of the best stories of last year was the rise of the Phoenix of Elon and their then new head coach Kirk Cignetti. The Phoenix finished last year with an 8-4 record and a berth into the FCS playoffs, their first since 2009. Obviously, things changed this season as you go from being the hunter to the hunted, but Coach Cignetti has experience in these type of situations going back to when he took over as head coach at IUP. The second year was even better than the first, so we'll see if history repeats itself this year with the Phoenix. As we get ready to kick off the start of summer workouts and fall camp, we will give you a look around the conference at some of the conference's best, and we'll start by unveiling our all-conference team, beginning with the offensive side of the ball. As we take a look at some of the conference's best in our preseason all-CAA team, excuse the Josh Mack mistake at running back as he's transferred out of the program, and that spot belongs to Albany's Elijah Ibutokin-Hanks, who returns from injury for the Great Danes. We just talked about the Rhode Island Rams being a team to watch, and a big reason why is because of the play of wide receiver Aaron Parker. The 6'3", 190-pound wideout finished last year with just over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's able to win at all levels of the field and does a fantastic job of making the big play. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, and what a pair of corners on this team with JMU's Jimmy Moreland and Rashad Robinson. Both guys combined for 15 interceptions and 23 pass breakups. Delaware's Troy Reeder was one of the best linebackers in the country, finishing with 89 tackles, 7 TFLs, and an interception. Now, his teammate Nasir Adderley finished second on the team in stops with 78, but more known for his ball-hawking skills as he picked off 5 passes and broke up another 11 on the season. And rounding out our preseason all-CAA team with the specialist, Richmond kicker Griffin Trow is one of the more consistent kickers in the country, connecting on 12 of 15 of his field goal attempts and 37 of 41 on his extra points. And we're going to take a team-by-team look around the CAA, and we're going to start with the New Hampshire Wildcats. When you talk about consistency in college football, you have to talk about New Hampshire. UNH found a way to finish strong last year and made the FCS playoffs, and also made some noise while they were in it. They have 18 starters returning and look to be even stronger defensively than they were last year. Quarterback Trevor Knight should be in the mix for the Walter Payton Award this season, and I think the biggest cause for concern would be maintaining focus. That's what cost them games at times last year, as they were definitely in their control, like the Holy Cross game and the Stony Brook game. This is where experience will be the best teacher for the Wildcats, so keep an eye on them this season as they could play deep into December. I think the Richmond Spiders will be surprisingly good this year on both sides of the ball. A lot of the focus will be on losing quarterback Kyle Lauletta, who now plays with the New York Giants, but they do have a quarterback in Kevin Johnson that has playoff game and playoff game winning experience stepping into that role, along with a deep group of receivers and running backs. So the offense will be just fine. Defensively, the second year in that system should yield much better results at each and every level. The secondary will probably be a work in progress, and that's where you can have some questions heading into the season. The first month of the year will be very challenging for the Spiders, so we'll definitely learn a lot about them after September as they face Virginia, Fordham, St. Francis, Stony Brook, and James Madison. The Dukes finished as the FCS runner-up last season and have a lot of the same pieces to make a return trip to Frisco this upcoming year. Well, at least a lot of the same skill players. They're going to be strong at running back and in the secondary, both of which are the best in the CAA. The receiving core looks good, and the defensive line should still be one of the more feared groups in the conference. The biggest cause for concern will be the quarterback play. Former Pitt Panther Ben DiNucci figures to be the starter, and if he can be efficient in the passing game, then all will be good for JMU. Now, the Dukes open up with a big one September 1st as they travel to Raleigh to take on NC State. Health is going to make the Villanova Wildcats a serious playoff contender this season. Getting back potential all-conference players and safety Rob Roll and quarterback Zach Bignardzik is going to be huge. Defensively, they'll be one of the best in the subdivision, and now with an offense that can put points up on the board, it'll make things a lot easier on the defense. The backfield combination of Aaron Forbes and Matt Gutzik should help spearhead one of the top rushing offenses in the CAA. The Wildcats open up with Temple, which could kick off the season in a big way for the Double Blue. The Phoenix gave their fans a taste of what life could be like on a consistent basis under Curt Cignetti. The 2018 season looks just as promising as Elon has 18 starters returning, including stud tailback Malcolm Summers and linebacker Warren Messer. Where the Phoenix should be strong once again is along the offensive line. CJ Toogood is one of the best up front in the FCS, and what makes Elon a challenge to defend is that they can beat you with their ground game and through the air with sophomore quarterback Davis Cheek. What we saw last year, in my opinion, wasn't an aberration, and the Phoenix are going to be on the FCS national scene for quite some time. There's a lot of buzz around the Delaware Blue Hens this season, and rightfully so. Quarterback Darius Wade, a graduate transfer from Boston College, can be exactly what they need at the quarterback position. I think defensively this team will be amongst the best in the CAA despite losing 2 NFL players along the defensive line. The back seven looks really strong. Consistency on offense will be the biggest difference in a winning season or a playoff season for the Blue Hens. They have a chance to be sitting at 3-0 before their September 22nd tilt against North Dakota State. The Towson Tigers dealt with a lot of injuries last year, but what you saw was a lot of experience being gained by guys that had to step up and play. I was on the broadcast for the Towson-Morgan State game and saw up close and personal how good this team was in the trenches and also at linebacker. Now, when you add in a healthy running back in Shane Simpson who has game-breaking ability, the Tigers should be able to close out games much better this season. They also have the dangerous combination that many teams don't have, and that's both youth and experience. The Stony Brook Seawolves have to be optimistic heading into the season, and what a year quarterback Joe Carbone had last year, becoming a major asset for this offense and helping balance out that offensive attack. Was last year an aberration or a sign of more things to come from the senior QB? That's the biggest offensive question, I believe, heading into 2018. We know under head coach Chuck Priori, the offensive line and defensive front seven will always be stout and give them a chance, and despite losing some studs on both sides of the line of scrimmage, the Seawolves feel pretty confident in the next wave of starters. Keep an eye on the Rhode Island Rams in 2018. Last year, you saw a significant improvement from a mental toughness perspective. A team that was tired of being a CAA doormat, was super competitive in games and was able to close out some of those games en route to a victory. Ball security will be the major key offensively for whoever takes over as the starting quarterback. That goes a long way in helping a team sustain drives and put up points. Defensively, head coach Jim Fleming went the JUCO route to land some impact players within their front seven, so we'll see if that also helps them be a much better ball club down the stretch. But if last season is of any indication, the Rams seem to be ready to break out this season. The Albany Great Danes should be much better running the football this year as their star tailback Elijah Ibutoken-Hanks is healthy, and they will always be a good point of attack team on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Balance is everything in football, and if they can't provide just a little bit more of that in the passing game, at least from an efficiency standpoint, then they could be in trouble. Look for the mantra this season to be run game and defense for Albany, which honestly isn't such a bad thing to have, as it can definitely win you some games. The Maine Black Bears are one of the more physical teams in the CAA and will be that way defensively at least in 2018. The biggest question is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. How do they replace running back Josh Mack and his production? Can quarterback Chris Ferguson raise his level of play? I think those are the two biggest questions, but I also believe the running game should be in good hands with Joe Fitzpatrick, as he'll have the benefit of having a strong group of linemen returning up front. Cutting down on the turnovers will be the key in the passing game in order for this offense as a whole to flourish. In order for William & Mary to get back into the mix for the CAA crown, they need their quarterback play to step up in a big way. A lot of teams in the CAA are built the same way, strong on both sides of the line of scrimmage, good running games, and solid special teams units. So the Tribe have the seeds to be a good team this year, but they have to be able to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. And 9 times out of 10 within this conference, that comes in what you can do in the passing game. And if that question gets answered early in the season opener versus Bucknell, then everything else will take care of itself. In my opinion, this team will be much improved this season. So that's a wrap from Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the FCS Opening Drive podcast on iTunes and also on SoundCloud, where Dave Hashagen and myself dive deeper into the world of the FCS. And don't forget to subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network on YouTube, where you can find all of our FCS video content at youtube.com/footballgameplan.